little dark.
All right, you got 5.
It's 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Let's start the Oregon Park Board meeting. Let's call it to order at 5 a.m., 5 p.m. that is. Let's go through roll call. If you would, please.
Here.
Case,
Here.
Jamison,
Here.
Herman,
Present.
Frisch,
Here.
and Miller.
Present. And item 3 is selection of the chair and vice chair. So annually after the election, we end up renewing or selecting a chair and vice chair, and we need to act on that right away. So do we have anybody that's interested in vice chair, or chair? Let's start up chair.
I nominate Mark Miller for chair.
I second that.
We want to spread this out. Does any have any other interest, any other people for a chair? No other interest in the chair, so that's 3 requests. All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So moved. We need a vice chair.
I nominate Dave.
Dave Jamison. Do we have any other individuals to be vice chair?
Dave, do you even want to be vice chair?
I don't care.
Okay. Okay, yeah, then that's fine. I'll
Mark's
second
never gonna
that.
miss another meeting for the next 20 years, so we're
Yeah.
fine.
He told me earlier that if he didn't get it, he's quitting.
I heard that
You were
too.
That's
supposed to
fine.
wait till after
Yeah,
the meeting.
yeah.
That's all right.
Supposed to be on the record.
I was quitting.
Power, he's
Oh,
power hungry.
Do we have anybody interested in vice chair for the park board, other than Dave Jamison? Well, we have Dave's name. All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed with the same sign.
Andy seconded.
Andy seconded, okay.
Oh,
That's when he was asking for consent.
just want to make sure.
that was how his second came about. Do we have any opposed sign? So moved. We got a chair and a vice chair. So item 4 is the approval of March 14th minutes. I was absent to that one in particular. Does the park board have any questions or comments in regards to the meeting minutes? Any corrections?
Motion to approve.
I second.
So moved. Second?
Yes.
All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say same sign. So moved. Thank you very much for doing that. Item 5, public appearance. This gives us the opportunity, if anybody's interested in talking with the park board. There can be anything that they choose to discuss. Doesn't necessarily have to be on the agenda itself. The park board typically doesn't respond with any comments or anything in particular, but gives the ability to at least share that. We do have some limitations on the length of time for 3 minutes, and we'll commit to about 15 minutes. Would anybody like to speak to the park board? Come on forward. If you could state your name and residence, that would be awesome.
My name is David Ast. I live on 161 Lynn Trail, Oregon, 2 houses north of Norm Champion Park. I'm here to talk about I'll say the excessive use of the park behind us for soccer use. You know, I realize that J.C. Park is under construction and reconstruction, so those fields aren't available. I'd just like to know if that's gonna last forever like it is. I mean, there was 3 games on Sunday at our house, or behind our house, and the field's literally 60 feet from my patio. And it was nice this year, they moved the parents to the other side of the field, to the west side, so you don't hear them as much, and you don't have 100 people walking right along your property line. But the coaches are still there on this side now, on the east side, and the players, and on Sunday, there was 3 games, and all we hear with our patio door open on a nice day is the coaches yelling at the kids at the field. Per the comprehensive plan for the village, it says that park area is suitable for practice fields. And practice isn't so bad, even though there at times there's out there for 3 hours, because there's practices from 4 to 5:30 and 5:30 to 7. Not every night, but several nights. But it's almost being used 7 days a week. And, you know, a lot of times I have a trailer behind my truck occasionally, and I don't even know if I can park in front of my house because of all the cars. And it's like 100 yards each direction from my house, both sides of the street. I guess I'm just interested to know if, you know, when J.C. Park is gonna be back in operation, if that field's gonna be taken out of the game playing loops. I understand, you know, for a tournament, maybe they'd use it or something, but, you know, it really declines our use and quality of life at our house. So, especially, you know, like I said, the coaches are yelling, we, you know, had the door open and we just had to close it. And a lot of times they're not saying the nicest things either. Even if it's to 10 or 12-year-olds. So,
Really?
so that is my concern, that the park is being overused per your park and recreation plan. You know, it's supposed to be occasional use, limited light use. But, you know, 5 days a week, I don't think is that. So,
Right. Understand that. Very good. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that. Mr. Blanchard.
Hi, I'm John Blanchard. I live at 470 Lisa Court. I wanted to talk about the renaming of J.C. Park. I have an issue with that idea based on the fact that the J.C. group that is no longer existent, but many of us are still around that worked hard with the J.C.s over the years. That park is established because of the J.C.s. They help pay for the initial development and design and everything for the park. Much of that isn't there anymore. They put in the original path with their own work, as far as I know. They did a lot of things for the village over the years. They did a scholarship for high school students for years, for seniors. They did a sandbox fill every year and filled up hundreds of sandboxes. Punt, pass, and kick program. They just, a lot of different things that I probably didn't even know about that they did. And at a time, there was probably over 100 members between there was J-sets and J-Cs, and it merged into being all together at one point. They funded a lot of J.C. Park by doing T-shirt sales at the Coliseum during concerts in the 70s. So they brought in hundreds of thousands of dollars selling T-shirts. They also did other things like newspaper drive, collected newspapers and sold them to a business in town at that time that did insulation. T-shirt, I'd mentioned that already. Just a lot of other things. And I guess I'd like to know why that's being considered, renaming, and what's the reason behind it. And if other parks in the future, if somebody's like, who's Gassner? Why is there a park named Gassner? Or who's Champion? Why is there a park named, we should rename that? You know, is all of this up for grabs in the future? So, I don't know if there's any.
We'll be talking about it on item 7.
So that was one of the questions. Can he
7A would. and I
comment
think-
about that? Or?
Yeah, that way we don't normally comment under
Sure.
community input, but
Correct.
I
Sure.
think let's talk about it under, and I'll give
Okay.
my thoughts and
The
ideas.
why I'd really like to know.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate that, John, very much so. Are there any other comments? Hearing none, let's keep moving on. Item 6, reports from the village staff. 6A, Public Works.
Yes. Anybody notice the bloom of dandelions in the village, just like today? I'm serious, it is like I mean, I know dandelions aren't loved by all, but I was just driving around, I'm like, holy cow, they
It's
literally
bright.
came up like overnight, probably from the rain and everything, but, we are out, just so you know that, we did pass or the village board did pass the mowing plan, but that all parks will be mowed on the highest frequency basis that we have. So all the parks and playing fields and everything will continue to be mowed. What will be moved to a lesser mowing plan will be drainage ways, drainage ponds, somewhat along some of the paths. The paths will still be mowed, swaths right next to the paths, but maybe some of the areas behind might be a little less, and more, try to encourage more native grasses and other things to come in. So that will be going on this summer. It's not been a popular plan in the past. It will likely not be a popular plan this summer. We already have seen that in a lot of our village board meetings and stuff. Change is hard, and, but I think the direction we're going is good. We'll see if the village board continues to think that's the right direction or not. We're moving, obviously, we're on a skeleton system right now, and we really hope it will be in the new, well, we're moving this week, but we hope we'll be transitioning all the meetings. The next meeting will, beyond any sense of control I have, will be in the new Village Hall, which is at 101 Alpine on the second floor. You'll love the new boardroom. You'll be blown away by the new boardroom, and the technology that we'll have.
Yes, we're using a camera because the
We're-
technology
yes.
was not working for us.
Yeah, we have a guy back there with a hand crank generator powering things.
No internet here, so we're
No
using
internet, no,
hotspots.
yes, we are running on a skeleton system. This last weekend, we had a really neat tree planting initiative that was organized by the Sierra Club. And it kind of came pretty fast, and so we didn't necessarily run it through the park board. I would have, I mean, I guess normally we would have said, hey, do you mind if we plant some trees in the parks? I can't imagine any of you saying that's a bad idea. But on High Meadows Park, which is there behind Claydell and Ames and that, we plant, and Thompson Park, which is behind Karate America down near the creek there, combined 33 trees on Saturday. And then on this next Saturday, although the Saturday the weather looks terrible, so it might get postponed, but if you know, Gary Dish Park is our newest park, named after Gary Dish. And that park, brand new park, has virtually no trees in it. And so we actually have purchased 40 trees, nice variety. The species and the location have all been determined by the Dane County arborist and Sierra Club representative. But we're seeking volunteers. We've partnered with this group, and they've handled most of the organizing, the flyers, the day of planting. Really, our commitment has been purchasing the trees, which were purchased at a high, very high discounted rate from Barnes, which was very nice to give us that discount. The funds are through grants, and also donations. And then also, we supply 2 or 3 staff on a Saturday, but to be able to operate the equipment. So we auger the holes, so the holes are all pre-dug. It really makes the planting fun and easy and rewarding. Like I said, you know, being able to plant 33 trees in 3.5, 4 hours was pretty good. But, so Saturday, look on Facebook. I mean, we are trying to get as many people out as possible because it goes quickly. And we have the equipment to kind of help with things and getting the mulch out and watering them and everything like that. But the total between will be 73 trees just between these 2 weeks. And then we'll probably be looking at upwards of even 50 to 80 additional in the fall, in other parks and other areas. And then last year, I don't know if you remember, we planted a bunch in Bergamot Park, and also in the medians of Alpine Parkway, and also up beyond the Beehive where that old tree line was cleared and everything. So.
In Thompson Park, you had a lot of trees taken down, which is part of the.
Yeah,
reason
we
for it.
lost a lot. I don't know if you remember, if you go back far enough to remember those 3 huge trees and one fell. It was right behind the playground equipment, about a 30-inch diameter tree that fell. And so We had to take down a lot of trees, and if you remember, we've really dressed that park up a lot in the last 5 years and cleaned it up a lot. So it really is a nice looking park. And yeah, the goal of us, or what our goal has been, and Randy Glish has really been supportive of this and seeking funds and everything, is we've lost so many trees to ash borer, and then just other die-off. And of course, we had to lose a lot of trees for J.C. Park, which was a very controversial part. And so we're wanting to tell the residents that we do love trees. We're working with the terrace tree planting program. We do want to plant as many trees as we can in the coming years. So we have that going. So if you can come out Saturday, Gary Dish Park, up there at Foxfield and Ridgeview. And concession stand is scheduled to start construction probably in a couple weeks. I haven't talked to them in a while. We're kind of waiting for it to dry out so we don't make a big mud mess out there. I was out there the other day with the engineer, and we walked around. They did the final grading and matting just, I think it was Saturday. It's looking great. The fields are looking great. You know, even following a very wet time period, the ball fields were in great shape, including the soccer field. And I'm going to be walking the park with a representative from soccer. I think we can, without constructing field 4, I think we can actually create a full-size soccer field there. Now, it won't be the professionally,
In that area?
in that area,
Please.
that kind of goes, there's a field there now, but it's a smaller field, and I think we can go a north-south field. So ideally, we'd be able to have 2 full-size fields, as well as smaller fields in the outfields for all the little tykes and everything like they do right now. But those fields won't be ready till fall.
So
Yeah.
the J.C. shelter is staying as is, as well as the restrooms, correct?
What do you mean?
The restrooms and the shelter at J.C. Park, those are staying as is?
Oh, well, actually, that's a good, thank you. Did you prompt me for that, or do you know? Actually, that's another thing. So I really have our public works crew going double time right now because they're the ones helping us move. But one of the side projects that we have is to completely revamp the shelter. We've already repainted the bathrooms and redone the stalls and redone the counters inside. So the inside's, it's a nice upgrade. It's not, you're not gonna walk in and go, wow, it's all brand new, but it looks sharp. And then we're gonna paint the outsides, we're gonna shingle the roofs, we're going to redo the soffit and fascia. We're actually gonna do the underside of that shelter, and we're gonna paint the columns black. And so, on the outside, they'll look like pretty brand new shelters, brand new shelter and brand new. And so we think that will kind of help give the impression that it's maybe newer than it really is. But that'll be a very nice upgrade.
I remember last time those restrooms were done, it was the Eagle project, and so they painted it. That was wood that had done that.
Oh, really?
So that was quite a few years ago.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and so I think hopefully that will, and the colors are gonna be kind of a gray and dark gray, which kind of will match the new concession building and hopefully tie everything together. The one thing that we'll be looking at here, probably the 1st of June, will be the final kind of cleaning up of some of the asphalt in the pickleball courts and the fencing. And then we'll have a coating put on, a real thick coating that goes on there. That's a whole color scheme that we've developed with the engineer. And then the striping, and we should hope to see that those will open hopefully in June. We hope to have them kind of open for Summerfest, but we'll see how those things come along. But those will be open, and of course, you know, they will be chomping at the bit for playing out there. And I don't blame them. They're gonna be really nice fields, or nice courts. I can't remember if I have, yeah, I'll leave that for later. Any other questions on parks or
Board had any other questions for Jeff?
projects? Yes.
This is just, I don't know if I should. Okay, this is a very general question. I used to volunteer at the Oregon Youth Center for a while, and I don't anymore, just I don't have the time, but I see a lot of the kids will go on the parks. Will they get in any trouble doing that? Like on, sorry, JC Park.
The we'd like for people to stay, if they're
Yeah.
gonna go, they can go on the paths and stuff.
Okay.
We'd like to see them stay off the grassed areas, just like anything else, you want it to get established and
Okay.
everything. But,
Yeah.
trouble is a relative term.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make
You
sure
know,
that like.
It's a 3 to 5 year sentence.
Okay, well, I was like looking out for
this.
those kids. I want them to get into trouble. It's like
Yeah,
I'd
no,
rather them be
no.
like.
I've
you know,
I've gone out there with
they're
few,
good kids,
there were
yeah.
a few kids out there and I've gone out there and I just politely just asked them to stay on the pavement and
Yeah.
so far all the kids I've run into have been very respectful and
I'm just happy to see kids outside.
absolutely,
Yeah.
exactly. And there's, you know, a lot of people using the walking paths.
Yep.
Once we start construction of the concession building, we'll want to keep people out of that area.
Okay.
But yeah, it's
Okay.
hard to keep people out.
Yeah, I was.
They want to use it,
Yeah.
so
Thank you.
thanks.
Any comments from the park board? Thank you, Jeff, appreciate the
You're welcome.
updates.
Thank you.
Community develop reports, any updates on the comprehensive plan and park plan, 6B?
Yeah, we are rocking and rolling on the comp plan and the park plan. Just got an email from Ben Rohr, who is another planner at Vanwall. Sonia's actually out for a couple months on maternity leave, so Ben's gonna pick back up. He worked with us a few years ago. So we are doing a park tour just with staff. If you see us around, you're welcome to join, but it'll really just be Ben out there taking pictures and kind of just verifying some of the amenities. Leanne's working on a big park matrix, which is, if you've seen that in other like state park guides, sometimes it'll have, you know, all the parks listed and then all the amenities and then kind of a checkbox and say, this one has, you know, picnic shelter, this one has basketball courts. So just verifying that all of the amenities are correct, taking some pictures and kind of getting a firsthand account from staff on how things are used and areas that might need improvement. So that will happen, I think, in about 2 weeks. We've got a date and a rain date set up for that. The park plan draft they're working on, and he said that hopefully by June we'll have a draft that we'll start to review here at the park board. So some of the later items about the capital improvement plan and, you know, spending next year, I think we'll start to see some of the feedback from the community coming through in those drafts, and so hopefully that'll help guide as we move through the budget process where we want to spend money or we want to wait on certain things. We did get the results of the survey back. I think we got a little over 500 responses. So I have like the kind of raw data, but overall it was certain sports groups especially did a good job circulating that, but there's a lot of different perspectives in there, a lot of helpful information that we have on kind of facilities planning as we plan ahead for new senior center, new community center type space. So that will all be included as an appendix in the draft of the plan, so you guys will get to see that pretty soon here. Yeah, I think that's the main thing we wanted to mention on the comp plan. Any questions, I guess, on the park plan or?
Questions?
Patiently waiting.
Me too.
I would say as part of that tour too, to address David's kind of concerns, I think we'll be looking at use of the parks and frequency and that type of stuff, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, we can kind of address that too, but JC Park right now, over the last 2 seasons, has really been unusable for the most part. And we talked about certain parks, you know, being kind of leaned on a little bit more heavily during the construction.
Vineyard is one of them.
Yep, yeah. There's definitely a couple neighborhood parks that were not really intended for that. And I actually live in the neighborhood too, was out there the other day just during a practice night, but there at the playground with my 2-year-old and found it to be very loud and distracting. And, you know, some of the comments from kids and coaches a little off-putting, so I could understand living there would be disruptive. So I mean, yeah, we can definitely talk about moving forward. It sounds like fall, maybe some more fields will open up. Some of that space that wasn't actually reseeded in like the field 4 area, we don't have grass
Yeah, that
growing
one.
over there.
And it's a construction zone for the concession stand. So
Yeah.
we're gonna,
See how that comes?
yeah,
And we didn't have any commitments. We knew that it depends on weather and depends on other things. And the concession stand was something that had to be put off because of the bid.
The bidding,
And so
correct.
that
Good
slowed that
memory.
down.
I might rely on you on.
No, not for long, says my wife. Any other comments for Elise? Thank you. I was just going to ask on those responses as you get, you were talking about 500 responses. And so that's going to be put together just to get a summary from the responses and how that looked. Is that correct? Okay. Curious on how the different perspectives play into that.
I think there's some patterns. There might have been some interested groups that really encouraged people to share the same kind of thoughts.
Was that the organization or the affiliation we have with the firm that wrote those questions?
So we worked with Vanderwall to write the
Vanderwall.
questions, yeah, and we kind of went back and forth with some drafts, and they have a standard list of questions that are kind of required to ask for these park plans. The reason we have to do this every 5 years too is to stay current and eligible for DNR grants and other grants. They'll want to see that it's updated frequently, so they have a standard list of questions they want to have you check in with the community on that regular basis. There were a couple other ones we added, like I said, we're starting the planning process for the new senior center, which will have some rec space, which we're considering, maybe that becomes kind of a community center that's adjacent to the senior center, and that space could be used nights and weekends when the senior center is not using it. So we asked some questions about indoor facilities, if the village provided, A through G, would you use any of these or none of them? So some of those were ones that we added on, but yeah, there'll be a summary. A survey is just as good as the questions that were written and then the people that respond. So obviously we're never gonna hear from everyone, and so I think you guys will see, again, there's a lot of good feedback, a lot of, I think we heard from a lot of younger people than we typically hear from in other surveys, so a lot more young families than we hear from in some just other involvement in the village. So nice to hear from different groups, but different priorities, and the survey is just one piece of information that the park board and ultimately the village board can use to make decisions.
Great, thank you very much. 6C, recreation and programming coordination with the Oregon Area Wellness.
Yes, so the Oregon Area Wellness Coalition, they hosted their annual park cleanup throughout the month of April. So we invite organizations, families, whomever would like, to volunteer to clean up one of our parks in the Oregon and Brooklyn area. We received a lot of signups, however, April was not the best to us weather-wise. So I don't know if that was a deterrent or if it just didn't really put us in the good weather frame of mind. So we would like to extend the sign-up throughout the month of May. So any interested parties, we encourage them to sign up. I helped out the senior center do Waterman Triangle Park, and it was a lot of fun, and it's fairly easy, and I highly recommend it for anybody looking to get involved.
Do you recall which organizations on the
Yes,
shortlist?
youth softball they did a couple of parks. The Historical Society did Lerner Park and another biggie too, I forget. The youth lacrosse, they did one, as well as the, there was one I hadn't heard of. It was the Oregon Equity Club. They had signed up to do
Really?
one of the parks, yeah. Senior Center, yeah, teamed up with Village Hall.
In the past, I know some scouts have done it,
Yeah.
but I don't think they did anything, so
Yeah,
I'll push on them.
Absolutely, yeah, I don't recall any scout groups, yeah,
Okay.
mostly sports and, yeah, Historical Society.
Like those groups engage in it as well, so I think that was oversight on their parts.
Absolutely.
Excellent, thanks for doing that. I think that really embraces the organizations to realize that the parks are there. and that
Absolutely.
They're available to them, but they gotta also take care of it.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Any other, 7 was unfinished business, any things that we would be discussing? So A would be possible renaming of J.C. Park. We'll go from there if you would like
Okay,
to
so
start?
I'll just kind of recap a little bit of the history of kind of where we ended up and why we ended up with things. When we started this whole J.C. Park kind of revamp again, which, I mean, this has gone on for years and years and years, but the last push which got us to where we are today, Dave, you were there from day one. I want to say it was 2016, maybe?
Yeah, at least.
At least, yeah. I started here in 2015, and it was soon after, so it was probably early 2016 where we said, I remember Mike Grace kind of saying, you know, we need to improve. We're just getting this call for, we need ball fields, we need soccer fields, we need a lacrosse field, all this type of stuff. And so that started kind of the wheels in motion, meeting with the groups and everything like that. And at the time, we looked for sponsorship. So there was sponsorship of fields, all the ball fields, sponsorship of dugouts, and there was a field, a park, total overall park sponsorship, which was for $250,000, okay? To have naming rights for, I believe, 25 years for the park. And so that was something that was put forward. We had a couple thoughts. We were hoping it might be someday be Culver's Park or something like that, but Sauk City kind of has Sauk City kind of has the corner market on that, I think. But one of the local banks, I think, had considered it for a little bit, but we never did sell that sponsorship for the park. But that's always been an idea as far as whether the park should be renamed, and not to take any credit away from the individuals that worked hard, actually back in 76, I think. Does that sound right, John? 77, 76? Okay, yeah, so, and I couldn't find anything, I've gone through the files, I can't find anything that really gave me any information on how it was named, any kind of agreement. If there is an agreement, I'd love to see one. But I think the feeling has always been, and it's true, you know, we don't have a JC group in the village, an active JC group. I don't know, and the thing is, when something like that, nothing is permanent. In fact, nowadays, 50 years is considered an enormously long time for things, and why parks are named how they are. Just the most recent park that was named was Gary Dish Park, and that was just honoring Gary, that had worked for the village for over, I think, 42 years, as a civil servant. Not only 42 years, but weekends, nights, everything like that, and so we tend to have that, and I don't think any of that is ever permanent, same with, Gasner Park, John Blanchard Dog Park. I mean, and I don't know how that was named, I mean, that was right before my time. But there are certain things like, out there, one of the ball fields that went away was Stutz. Faust, thank you, Faust. Yeah, Faust Field went away as part of the reconstruction. I always get the two of those mixed up, so I apologize. And my kids were never in baseball, so it never landed. And I did talk to one of the Faust family members at one time, and we had a discussion, and we said, well, there's still fields to be sponsored that could be continuing. We are going to honor the Bill Faust, and in the recognition board that will go on the concession stand. But we let the family know at that time that they could, sponsor a field, and it could be Faust Field continued, that type of thing. But in a time where we were trying to raise funds for things, and it's a complete reconstruction of the park. I mean, it does not look anything like it did before, other than the one path that goes by Stotts, and and the two bridges and everything. But it's a whole new park, and so that was why we said if there ever is a time to look at renaming the park, that was this was the time. We had found the original plans called it for Central Park. Or called it as Central Park, and showed the paths, and believe it or not, in that hourglass shape of the paths that developed out there, there were actually meant to be lakes out in the middle of those. Because it probably was swamp. I mean, it really was swampy land to begin with. And I believe, do you remember the history? It was actually a training ground or a practice ground for the Army Corps of Engineers Seabees, I believe. Yeah, that they came up and actually did some grading, kind of pro bono grading, I guess, practice and everything to help grade the area and everything. So that's the history on it. I mean, I think I really have no major opinion. I think it's nice time to do a renaming. I don't think, you know, if we were to hold the J.C.'s to the same standard we were the Faust family, we'd be saying, okay, you know, if you want to name the park J.C., then, and I know they're not gonna be able to come up with $250,000, correct? Yeah. And so, you know, that's kind of where we've gotten to today's conversation. I think it's a neat opportunity, you know, in time. I think I know that everything I do with the village is not permanent at all, and I see that in looking through the historical files. And I'm always coming across things and thinking, wow, this is the third time we've touched that piece of property and it's changed, and it's, you know, if you look back on some of the old historical pictures, and things just, you know, change over time. So that's the history.
Okay. Any comments from the park board?
Well, I think to Jeff's point, when we started this, however long ago, the whole hope and fingers crossed is that a sponsorship would come through with that amount of money.
Yeah.
And we felt back then that if somebody would give that amount of money at that sum of money, that it was only right that their name would go on the park. So that hasn't happened, obviously, so, I mean, but that was the original
Yeah.
thought on it, was that hopefully somebody'd come through and we would rename after them, but it never did, so.
John, why don't you step on up? So we can hear you go on the
One thing I
microphone.
forgot to mention that, there was, for many years, a member of the J.C.'s was on this board and served for a long time. As long as the J.C.'s were around, they had someone on here to have their input.
And I don't think anyone wants to take away from the contributions they gave, or, I mean, I know a lot of people, when we were going through planning and stuff like that, it was like, people were like, why is it called J.C. Park? And we're like, we couldn't find too much of a record, but those kind of records don't last around too long, because they didn't tend to do the legal agreements we do now. Right now with sponsorship, we actually have a legal agreement that lasts anywhere from 10 years to 25 years.
I would also imagine that just like the Faust family, the contribution of the J.C.'s could be acknowledged on the recognition wall. Also kind of think about the history on this property with the Corps of Engineers and J.C.'s, and, you know, I guess thinking about this too is that there's been this effort over the last, 10 years to put a lot of time and thought into what was going to be in that park, and then also some significant donations from community groups and businesses and individuals. So, I kind of just thinking about the generations of this park. I know that was Jamie's idea.
Little plug, Generations,
Yes.
renaming the park, which would honor JC and everybody that came before and
Yeah.
after. Okay.
The
I
other
would-
thing too is, when we're talking about the Norm Champion Park, Mike worked with his wife, and we
Yeah.
had, so that's only been like 5 years that
Yeah,
we've
there's a
named.
plaque out there and everything,
Yeah.
exactly, and so that's always.
We had a ribbon cutting and everything.
Yep, yeah, and so there's reasons, I know the Gasner family did some donation for the Gasner Park out there, the sledding hill. It's, I think honestly, as a culture, we were probably getting farther away from naming things after people, because that can sometimes be problematic, depending if something turns up in their life or whatever, and then, Thank goodness we don't have Epstein Park or anything like that, you know, but, so,
I
but,
respect the history,
Yeah.
because certainly a developer could come and taken that property and we would have not have it available to us, you know, so that's always a possibility. But I do respect that if it's there and not being utilized because of the resources, what is the investment we needed to go forward? So that I realize as well, we need to revamp it to utilize it in today's environment.
I think that, I mean, I think sooner or later we'll have to move this off a center, you know, so I think I think personally, either as a board, you would say, we are going to keep it as is, that's kind of option one, and then just kind of send that recommendation to the board to keep it as is. The other one would be is to open it up for a public naming contest, or something like that, or not contest, but just a
Right.
opportunity to be able to submit potential names. And honestly, I would think there'd be people that would submit J.C. Park, right? Why keep it the same? Or why not keep it the same? And then that's kind of your other option, I think. And either one, I think, is perfectly fine. You don't have to select something different, but who knows? You might find the public out there really wants to see it something different. You know?
I think that would make the most sense, is get the ideas out and try to gather some of the ideas and put those together to serve to the park board, or to the park and the village board.
But we've had it on the menu for a while here.
Yes, we have.
And so I think it might be nice just to at least get it going one direction or another, and that way we can kind of, because honestly, we have to, once we get done with our move and kind of get into past a few things right now, we've got to work at signage, bannering, whatever you want to call it, you know, not bannering, what's the term I'm looking for here?
Like donor recognition?
Well, the donor recognition, but I'm just thinking the
Scoreboards.
yeah,
Right.
well,
Updated on the park plan, the
Exactly.
maps and things like that.
exactly.
But
Was this, I thought a couple of weeks ago I saw this on the village board agenda. Did the village board have an appetite for this at all? Or
Yeah.
what was the discussion there?
yeah, I mean, that's partly why it's back in front of you guys. That's the one part I guess we forgot to mention to start out here. But yeah, we kind of let them know. We talked about it with you all. We wanted to check in with the board before we got a little too far ahead of them. I think they were in general supportive of hearing from the community about ideas, and you know, we mentioned maybe having you guys come up with a short list, and J.C. Park would be, you know, leaving as is J.C. Park one of the options, maybe a few other ideas, and then have a space for other suggestions. You could just kind of see where the feedback comes, and we can discuss it at a future meeting. So the board was supportive of, I
Sure.
guess, that public
I mean,
process.
Personally, I don't see why you can't still honor the past, but still move forward. And with it being, you know, completely reconstructed, it's a new park, you know, so to Jeff's point, I think it would be, the best time to do it if it is the time. But if you leave it up to the public too, I mean, there's a chance, like you said, it could always still be J.C. Park, but I'd like to, 50 plus years, almost 60 years, I'd like to give, the current community the opportunity, that would be in front of them.
Yeah.
Is there an avenue that we can utilize staff to get a message out in some form of asking questions like that, like a survey form?
Yeah, we have a SurveyMonkey account or Google Forms, so we could certainly send that out. And, we could have
Right.
a couple more, if there's other questions you want to ask, but keep it simple, we can share that
What do you think of doing it that way?
press release and social media.
I mean, asking for name submissions?
Yep.
Or,
We can put I think we should put some lists down,
Yeah.
some of those names, and then offer other ideas.
Yeah. Otherwise, you'll probably get 500 different ideas, all spelled a little differently, so.
Well, that's been utilized for some of the schools. They've done a similar thing, asked them what they'd like the name of the school to be.
They had 3 already on there.
Yes, they did. Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I wouldn't wanna have it be just open-ended.
Right.
I mean, you could have a line for other, essentially like a write-in candidate, but
Yep.
Mhm.
so you're thinking maybe you would suggest 3 or 4 names, and then an
Correct.
other. That might be a lot cleaner than
Correct, yes.
the
So,
shotgun approach,
We
which
got some ideas from our last meeting notes
you might
about it
get
as well.
400 electronic submissions at Jeffrey Park.
You might, yes.
But I know certain people that wouldn't want to go to that park. A lot of people.
So if you guys are ready to move forward with that survey, I could probably pull up my notes here, but Generations Park was mentioned, Central Park, I think there was some interest in,
I think there's Town Park too.
Was there a town park on it? I don't think they made
or
it.
Village
no.
Park, there is already a town park.
Yeah, we can't have, yeah,
Well,
because,
it's in the
Yeah.
township, out
yeah.
of one way.
It's a really nice.
No,
Yeah. I mean, I would put JC on there as
Yeah.
well.
Yep,
Because we're in the village and they're.
Oh, in the town. Oh, I've been there. It's like.
Yeah.
yeah, with the woods
Is it
and
like
stuff.
by a field?
Yes.
Oh.
We can be like
Focus.
everybody else and just call it community park too.
Yeah.
yep,
I mean,
Yep.
I'm not saying that.
like Oregon
Put it down.
Community Park.
Oregon Community
I
Park,
think that
I
sounds
mean,
good too.
Mm-hmm,
somehow.
I like that.
Yep.
Because it
Like with the
really,
Boosie.
Yeah, I mean, you
well,
say
it would be,
community
that's
park,
right, Jamie,
but
that's,
it's a sports-focused park, and that's, I mean, you're gonna find a lot of the village, or a lot of the people in the village aren't gonna even look that way.
yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, but I think giving people the opportunity, you know, with these names, and like you said, taking the short list right now, I think that's the way to go.
Oregon Sports Complex.
Do we got enough names to start
Yeah.
off?
So
Alex?
I've got
Any other?
JC Park, Central Park, Oregon Community Park, Generations Park, and other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does
You
that
can
work?
put Jeff Rouse on there.
No, do not do that.
You
Yeah.
gotta leave that as other.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, actually,
I
I
couldn't
forgot,
help it.
I forgot one thing on my report that deals with J.C. Park, but as soon as we're done with this. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Do we need a motion, Stu, or can it
Do
just
you want a
move
motion?
on forward to the village board with the idea? of
Why
what
don't you
we
make the
want?
motion?
Yeah, I'll
just
make
to
a
make
motion.
it-
Doesn't hurt.
Yeah, just
Judy's
make the
gonna
motion
make a
that,
motion on that. Do we have a second?
To move forward
we'll
with the
s-
survey.
Yeah,
yep,
I'll
with
second
those
it.
names
You got a
and,
second?
Move it through.
Okay, all in favor, state by saying aye.
Hi.
Opposed, same sign. So
Excellent.
moved.
yeah.
Excellent, thank you. Did you have something else?
Yeah, I forgot to mention, this is kind of neat. So one of the really neat features, I think, a very respectful part of the park is the Veterans Plaza that we have out there. If you've seen the 9 flagpoles, which, if you don't know, we actually have 6 branches of the military now instead of 5, so that's, which includes the Space Force. So we have 6 branches of the military, national flag, state flag, and POW/MIA flag. And so we're going to dedicate that plaza on 4th of July, where we are working with the VFW group. We will have a dedication of a plaque and a monument, hopefully, that is in at that time. If not, we'll have the plaque. So it'll be dedicated that day, July 4th, 2023. We'll have speakers from the VFW. We're going to have probably a 15 to 20 piece band there that'll be playing patriotic music. We'll play taps and they'll raise the flags, and it's gonna be at noon on the 4th of July. So hopefully before people get busy with picnics and stuff like that, but we know it's a busy day, but it's kind of also a neat day it's a Tuesday this week, or this year, I think, so.
Are you gonna stream that or post it anywhere?
OCA
I'm
Media.
sure we'll be talking to OCA Media, yeah, we'll be getting some advertisements out, but I just kind of want to put it on the calendar. I just think it's a neat, kind of the first of dedications, if you will, out there, because we'll be obviously with the park board out there dedicating the field and cutting the ribbon, hopefully late this fall. I know, big
I believe
scissors.
the community band is going to be playing that day too, all kinds of patriotic music. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know what time that is yet.
Aware.
Be at night,
They'll
right?
be
The
at the
municipal
Tribal
band?
Park. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so they'll probably do an early, their warm-up out there, but I don't know, but yeah, so it's really neat. They found some band members that are willing to come out there, and I think it'll be, for those who attended a couple years ago, we did, I think, a 4th of July dedication of a Liberty tree up at the cemetery, at the Ames gravesite, so something fun on 4th of July.
Awesome, excellent. Thank you for bringing that up, Jeff.
You're welcome, thank you.
7B, the item was use of available funding for park improvements in 2023, likewise including on John Blanchard Dog Park. So as part of the comprehensive plan, is that part of what the board is essentially doing is giving some funds to the park board to manage and utilize it. So that's awesome. It's $30,000 overall, but I think $20,000 is earmarked to looking at improvements that we can choose and do something with. I think that's awesome. That's wonderful, because the park board often didn't have a whole lot of money. We just get a.
Well, I want to clarify, I need to check, because I saw this here and I'm like, I want to make sure the $20,000 is, that's normally amount that we have in our regular budget for repair of park benches.
Okay.
Wood chips and
Is it?
park,
Okay.
park maintenance and stuff. But I'll verify that, but I'm pretty sure that might be it. But I do know that we allocated an additional $10,000 for improvements to John Blanchard Dog Park. So, yeah, I think,
And what occurred is somebody from that area asked about doing some improvements on the John Blanchard
Yeah,
Park, from everything
yeah.
from accessibility to way
yeah,
systems.
about 5 years ago, we added those gravel pads which need to be refreshed. Because we all acknowledge, even John probably acknowledges, that that's not the most prime ground in the village. In fact, it's one step above swamp. In fact, the hydrant, we joke around because we have to raise the hydrant, we salvaged a few hydrants out there so dogs can dog. But they keep sinking every year. They literally, we just lift them up and put more stuff under them, and they just slowly are sinking into the ground.
Well, maybe because there's a lot of water that goes around it.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's some neat things out there as far as there's some dog, there's equipment you can buy for like dog agility that is really kind of cool. And kind of the little seesaw for the dogs and ramps and other stuff like that, so that we can look at improvements like that. We're doing normal stuff, like we will be spraying for weeds twice a year, which I understand was not done last year, so I apologize for that. I was not aware of that until a couple weeks ago. But we'll be spraying for weeds twice this year.
What's the
out there.
condition of the thistle? At one point, when we first got into it, it was really bad.
It's bad, it remains bad in certain portions of the park.
Okay.
And it's the worst. It's the worst to get rid of unless, and the problem with that, the soils out there are some of the poorest, blackest, most organic peat mossed soils. I mean, if we dried it, we could probably burn it, burn the peat moss there. So it's always gonna be a battle. Always will be a battle, and even if we got on top of it for 1 or 2 years, it'd be back in 2 years. So we continue to kind of fight it, but it's,
Okay.
John, the history out there, was it just, we wanted a dog park in the,
Wanted a dog park and that was available.
it was, yeah,
Village owned it already.
yeah. We could fence it in for a fairly reasonable cost and everything. It's nothing like what we've seen Dane County kind of develop with their paths and everything. Those are, I mean, I'd love to do that someday, is have gravel paths out there. But that would be a lot to get, again, they'd be sinking into the ground. Every year we'd be dressing them and stuff, so, but, yeah, if you have some suggestions, I'd love to look into them and then bring them back, later with some ideas.
So I'd just recommend keeping an eye on ideas and looking for ideas so we can find out what funding may be available. Yeah.
In regards to the soil quality as well as the sinking, would it be possible to plant like water-heavy plants or species in that area? Like that could also outcompete thistle, which I know is still very persistent.
Right.
But it could, like I know trees, but again, that would be
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah. We've talked about actually planting a bunch of willows out there. It's not gonna dry up the whole area, but
Yeah,
yeah,
but it
we've
helps.
kind of thought about that, exactly right. Kind of especially along the backside of there where it goes along the creek, but I think that would be a neat idea. It's short of us coming in and trying to like de-water it. We could look at a old-fashioned, drain tile system, but that gets a little tricky too with DNR, and they don't like drain tiling things anymore, And with that soil, I really don't know if it would be permeable enough to be effective with drain tile. I'd much rather look for something like, Andy's gonna hate this suggestion. But that upland area that is known as West Side Park, which has been talked about that we farm right now, that's at the corner of Netherwood and Alpine Parkway. Upland area, much like what we see in the Dane County Dog Park. Much better land that gives us something we're not fighting all the time. And that could be, the neat thing with at least the Dane County Dog, has anyone gone down to that dog park on County A?
I have.
Huh? Yes, yes. Are you familiar with it, Andy?
Yeah, just a little.
But upland areas that you can burn, you can maintain more of a natural habitat, and maybe that's a good mix, Andy. I don't know, if the Nature Alliance would be in favor of that or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if the village has the budget to make a park like
Yeah.
that one, then that's how you can get people on board
Yeah,
with it. I mean, I think the key resistance you'll see with that west side property is trying to keep a lot of natural
yeah.
in there, and
Which would be a good.
which would be a way to do it. Because
Yeah.
if you look at the county dog park of the 35, 40 acres, I think about 30 plus acres of it was seeded as a prairie, and then they came in with, their paths, so they might still have 25 to
Yeah.
30 acres of natives out there.
Exactly. That might be a good compromise.
Something to consider.
Yeah,
Well, if you come up with any ideas on the Blanchard Park, let's bring them out so that we can,
yeah. And some of
That's
that stuff, if we ever were to move the park to higher ground, some of the stuff is easily if it's equipment or anything
Okay.
like that. Tire swing, remember the tire swing
Yeah,
from
oh, yeah.
last year? Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Moving on to item 8, so new business, so one of which was the Canvas Welcome Collection projects for J.C. Park. So I had looked at this a little bit, so really it's recycled from wind turbines.
It's kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of interesting, yes.
So yeah, we were approached, both Randy, myself, we kind of got a few emails. Yeah, these are cross sections of fiberglass wind turbine blades that are being repurposed for benches, planter boxes, and that type of thing. They, in an initial meeting, Randy and Phil, I don't think Phil's here anymore, but Phil had with them was, yeah, we'd like to be able to give this to you. And we're like, okay. And I was my first inclination is, well, what's the catch? So I had a follow-up phone call with them, and I literally asked, what's the catch? And so what really boils down to is there are deep pocket companies out there, and I won't name any of them not publicly, because I don't know if they're part of the program or not, but pick large company A, and they want to help they want to be environmentally sound and part of their recycle, reuse, whatever program. And so they fund these things for villages and cities and that type of stuff. It's about a $37,000 plus shipping investment. My thought is, I think these, we could find some really cool places in J.C. Park. In the plazas, I think the very narrow ones would even fit really nicely in the median of the pickleball courts. Each one comes with a plaque that tells where exactly it came from, like down to the GPS coordinates, and then also who sponsored it. If you look at that middle one, I think it's called Beacon. That actually has a light on it and a solar light on it. I would think we would go mostly just with benches and not planters, because I don't want to increase the work on planters and that
That's
type.
what I was gonna ask.
That's planters and that type of stuff. But I think they're just a neat idea. Like Beacon, I think would be a really neat entrance kind of bench and everything right at, there's a large concrete plaza there right now before you cross the bridge to go into the park. The other ones I think would go really nicely between some of the dugout areas. So, and honestly, there's no catch, there's no long-term deal. All they would ask is some photos of the installation so that they can use it for their promo and everything like that. So, doesn't necessarily mean we'll be always, we'll be selected, but they think they'll be fully funded this year for all of their like 200 and some odd communities. But I have vetted it enough to feel like it is legit. I've looked at it online. I think it's a neat opportunity. We were planning on purchasing benches and other stuff for J.C. Park. So let me know your thoughts.
Ideas from the park board?
And all we would do is pay for the shipping to get it?
We don't even pay the shipping.
We don't even pay the shipping?
We just would install them. We unload them from the truck and we install them.
What are the benches filled with? I mean, there's gotta be some sort of material in them.
I don't know. I would.
I mean, it was hard to tell from the packet.
I think uranium deposits.
Right, yeah, I mean, it's gonna hide.
One way to get rid of this.
It's
Not bad.
part of a whole recycle mode. Yeah, I don't know. I think Andy there must be some sort of either like shelf below, if it's for the bench.
Sure.
But, and then if it's a potted area, it's probably deeper with drain holes would be my guess.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of going more bench centric, but, you know, I do like, you know, the fay on there where it's the lower bench, but then have the higher, you know, planter. I mean, I think that would be an opportunity there too, and, but like you said, it's always hard to find volunteers to come out.
It is.
You know, to take care of the plants, cause, I mean, there's the people that take care of them downtown, and I think they do a great job, but you don't wanna keep piling stuff on.
Correct.
To groups.
Well, that was the Gary Dish thing too.
Yeah.
He did all
But,
the ones downtown.
Yeah, those ones that are tall are kind of cool for like, I mean, I thought even for like around the ball diamonds and stuff, there's people put their ball bags up there. And even sometimes you sit on them almost like a bleacher where your feet are on the bench side and you're
Yeah, I mean,
sitting up
if it's a
top.
flat surface, people are gonna find a way to use
Yep.
it.
Yep. I think it's kind of a cool idea. I think it's part of, it kind of matches, in my mind, a nice mix of the village is pushing towards art, which is kind of a little artsy. It's also for our environmental push that the village board has really been pushing for. So, and that's why I would like them white, because that's what the blades are. People would associate that with those.
It looks like they use other materials, which are all recycled as well.
Yeah.
Recycle rubber, yes, yeah.
What are they made out of? Like the.
So they're fiberglass, the blades are fiberglass.
Yeah.
And so if you've ever seen them on a truck, they're very flexible because they do move. But,
Yeah.
So that's why the unusual shape. I think that's,
Yeah.
could potentially be the only disadvantage. It's not a clear-cut seating area, but it's a unique look.
Right.
So if you're gonna try to, that size and try to put 8 people on it, you
Yeah.
may not because it curves, but on the other hand,
I mean,
certainly can sit.
Yeah, but now that, we did have some people that donated money for benches, but they could be in a different part of.
those are other benches that we have,
We
yeah.
can have during the round paths or
Yeah,
things like
yeah.
that. Okay.
Yep.
If we get selected and you accept this, is there a set number of years that you would have to have them?
I asked that too, yeah. No, nothing.
I mean,
It's-
cause
it's-
if all of a sudden we get them and we put them up for the year and we find that it's more, not that they would be more hassle, but I mean, it's just, we're not locked into anything except having them take some pictures and then
Yep,
go on their merry way.
yep.
Okay.
Although then we'd have.
Although then we have
find
to
it.
get rid of them, right?
That's
Yeah.
what they're looking for,
Yeah,
to
I
get
don't-
rid of
and
them.
I don't
Then
think-
they all end up in Lerner Park and people find them out in the swamp.
The back, we'll
Yeah.
put them in the dog park, in 2 years they'll be gone.
Right, yeah.
Just
No,
slow.
I think it's a good opportunity. I mean, reading through it and reading through your notes, you know, I thought you put it together pretty well, and as long as you vetted it, I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of trust you on that aspect of it, and if it's a way to get something I agree too, because it's kind of a cross between functional and, you know, style.
Yeah. Function and form.
And it's a total of 8, is that what I'm reading?
It's full of what?
It's
Seven?
8 pieces,
Eight
right?
pieces, so it's that whole, that welcome collection, yeah, right
Yeah,
there. So
okay.
it's actually, those are 4 or 5 pieces there. And then does it have the,
There's,
because it also
there's
has
one
the
page on here,
Fay.
page
which-
3 of 9
Yeah.
on your packet,
Yep.
talked about the quantities.
So Jeff, do you think you guys would be able to move these easy enough if they had to be moved?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So if-
I've been
if-
told that, if they're not full of dirt or anything, that a couple people can move them,
No.
yeah.
I mean,
And
if
we have
we get
equipment
8
to move
pieces
them.
and we put them out there and we feel like they don't work.
Well,
Could
we'll
they go
find
somewhere else?
we'll find
I
some
mean, we could
spots.
probably put some of these in other,
Plus,
We've
yeah,
got, we've got
If
Keller
they're light,
Alpine
we'll
Park,
walk
we've
off.
got,
well, I mean, you could put them in other parks if they don't work here is my question
Yeah.
of moving them,
yeah,
so.
exactly, yeah. No, that's
don't
where,
see why we wouldn't
trust
try
me, I look at everything through the lens of, is this going to be a nightmare or headache for my staff? Because I hate to add, since we're not adding staff at the pace we're adding parks and other stuff, I'm very protective. That's why I'm protective about the mowing plan too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's trying to do what we can.
Do we need to motion this through for
Yeah,
you to go?
I have a recommended motion in here. It says, motion
Okay.
to recommend to village board that we accept the offer from Canvas for the welcome collection of recycled wind turbine blade furnishings and place them in locations in J.C. Park as determined by the Director of Public Works.
So moved.
yeah, I'll second that.
Second that?
Do you want to add on there in case if you would need to move it to another park? Not
No.
just- Okay.
That'll just complicate it.
Any other comments regards to that? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So moved. Thank you, Jeff, for bringing
Thank
that
you.
forward.
No, it's,
Appreciate that.
thank you.
Well, it works out.
We'll let you know what comes out of it.
Item 8B, bike safety and bike-friendly community. I kind of threw that out there. I think there was an initiative to do some things, and so I appreciate at least putting that together and putting some information together, because we've done some things overall, and so I obviously have some information. I don't think this has ever been in front of the park board before. I think you've worked on it and certainly got aware of it, and I just thought, just bringing up, being aware of what, a couple of things we would need to do in order to move to that community of a bike-friendly.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mark. This has been a little while since I picked this up, and I don't think most of you were on the park board. Some of you were when I did this before, but yeah, not sure if I brought this back. So there had been a request maybe from the Wellness Coalition to look into applying to be a bike-friendly community. So, there's Bird City USA and Tree City and all these different kind of certifications you can get. So the bike-friendly community is one. It's quite a lengthy application process, and I think they do it maybe 2 different windows per year. I did this in the spring of 2020 and submit all the application materials, a bunch of maps, and then we get this scorecard back. So this is the scorecard we received in the spring of 2020. We received the honorable mention. We kept joking it was like tinfoil instead of bronze.
Yes, we were aluminum foil last year.
So you can see here's like the gray column is the average bronze community rates, this percentage or this frequency for meetings, and then here's what Oregon has. And so just kind of showing you, again, some steps here. What can you work on to try to get to bronze should you reapply? So a couple of their comments were, we have a lot of low-speed streets, so most of our streets, part of the reason we don't have a lot of bike paths is because most of our streets are 25 miles an hour. They're very wide because there's on-street parking, and so there's a lot of opportunity for kind of bike boulevards or sharrows. You may have seen with the bike printed on the ground with arrows kind of sharing, share the road. A lot of other infrastructure we could put in to make bike travel on those streets safer and more visible. Adopting a complete streets policy, and kind of work that into future road plans, which we have done some improvements definitely in Janesville Street, North Main, pretty much every, corridor, hopefully Jefferson in the next decade or so. Once we get the last couple properties annexed, we'll have all of our major thoroughfares through the village with bike lanes. Other, bike facilities, so you can read through these. These are some of their suggestions. We can reapply anytime it doesn't necessarily make sense to reapply unless we feel like we've gotten to the point where this is really gonna change and it's more just for our own, I mean, obviously, the changes are good, so they're good things to aim towards, but, haven't necessarily had enough happen that I felt like it would be worth reapplying. Just to remind you all too, so we have the park plan and the comp plan process happening this year, should wrap up by December. And then with our Assistant Public Works Director, Lauren Striegel, she and I applied for a TIP grant, Transportation Improvement Program grant through the DOT and received that. So it's a cost share grant, but it's for a bike and ped plan. And so we have a couple years to spend that money. So the thought was, let's do that bike and ped plan, which will really kind of take the suggestions from the park plan and the comp plan about we want to provide active transportation and all that. It'll actually kind of get into the nuts and bolts of where are gaps in the sidewalk network, or where would be a really impactful section of trail or, bike lane that could be easily added. So it'll actually kind of be more of an engineering type report on what should be done, what signs can be implemented, how should we restripe, all that. So our thought was that would kind of go, that plan would probably get picked up at the end of this year and then kind of go through maybe half of 2024. So I can see once that plan's adopted, even just having that plan will definitely help us score better, and definitely something we want to aim for to reapply and keep striving towards improvement. But I think we already do a lot towards education, but there's a lot more. One thing I realized when doing this application, again, it feels like a whole lifetime ago that I picked this up, but there's a lot more we could do for adults and bike riding. So there's a lot of stuff there's like the bike rodeo, a lot of stuff that the schools do for bike safety, safety day, national night out, all of that stuff too, but those are really geared towards kids. So whether it's social rides or getting adults together, kind of do like a community ride, and let's talk about, what are the rules of the road if you are a bike, hand signals, and how to make sure you're not riding right alongside parked cars and they open their door and slam into you, and just kind of getting people more comfortable with riding on the roads, because we're not necessarily going to have the space to have off-street trails everywhere. So that was just kind of eye-opening going through this, that there's a lot we can do without even building stuff, but trying to get people together more as it relates to bikes. But
I think even with Anderson Park having a trail out there, that's offering more people to travel out that direction. And so down Main Street as well, so that's opened up. And like you're saying, there's other improvements that have been done to make it safer to cross some of the larger roads, which is the greatest challenge, has been overall. So appreciate you bringing that back and just keeping aware of that. Look for opportunities along the way.
Hey, Mark, can I add something?
Certainly.
I have a two-part question. One is, how many of the village parks have bike racks at them? And two, are they actually being used?
yeah, that'll definitely be something I think we'll check on the park tour, and and yeah, that's a good point, just to see.
I mean, if you want to promote, people going to different parks and different ways to get there, that would be, a way to help, this as well. I mean, I agree that there's a lot of different avenues and trails for people to use, but they're not connected. I mean, all the new developments, they're putting trails in, but then they stop at the old development, so finding a way, whether that's on the city streets, and that's where I think, the engineering from that bike and ped plan will come in handy with that.
Isn't that Kudurland? Isn't that where we put an air pump system?
Well, at Keller Alpine, we did.
On the north side,
We have an air pump and bike repair station there. And like Highlands and Netherwood, we put racks on. We just did a rack out at the new Village Hall, and new racks. They're really cool, kind of cool pedestal racks at J.C. Park. And don't ask me how much they cost, because you don't want to know. I would have put those at Village Hall, but we don't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
No, that's
But-
good. I would imagine
so-
a lot of them don't, especially the neighborhood parks, and they just kind of become a big pile of bikes as kids bike down there, but good to have some structure. We'll keep our
Great to
eyes
see the
peeled for that.
schools with lots of bikes out in front of seating the bike racks.
Leanne had a question.
What was the name of the park that you said that had like the repair, like the bike pump and that?
Keller Alpine.
Is that the one by the Rotary Trail?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
Yep, so it's right off Netherwood. Is that
I
parking
haven't
lot.
seen, like, there's not tools or accessibility there anymore.
I remember.
Yeah, they're hidden in the, not hidden, but they hang on little chains that are in the, I'll check if they're gone.
Yeah,
We
they've
need-
been
'cause-
gone for about like a year or two.
Oh,
Yeah, I go over there a lot.
Then
I
I
was
need-
wondering what happened to that. I was like, oh, they took them down because
then
my.
I need to talk to the park guy.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I wasn't sure if it
Oh.
was that or like a winter thing. And
Nope, they should be there year round and it's been a while, so they probably do need to be replaced.
Okay.
I'll take care of that. Good call.
Awesome, thank you for that information, Louise.
Oh, wait, I got one more. Sorry. Since we're on bikes, the Rotary Trail, any updates on that? You know, is it still gravel out there?
Yeah, it'll still
Be
gravel.
that way for a while?
At least for another year. We don't have any plan this year. I'm getting to the point now where I'm probably gonna be confident that we'll go in and pave it. We'll be looking at, in this next budget year for 2024, probably be putting that forward to get a cost estimate of what it would be. And we'll just probably pave it over what we have there now.
Sure.
Yeah, because it'll have base, asphalt, about 28 inches of
base.
compacted base, and then it'll probably be the best, most
Sure.
solid area. You know.
Water flow there.
Yeah. But
Is Jamie Bush still going to do the bicycle?
I don't know. The pump track,
Well, over at the,
He's
Yeah,
building the
by
building,
the-
so.
yeah, they're building the building. I think he's just so busy right now, and I can empathize with him. Just you're so focused on getting the building built and
Yeah.
done and, you know, open for your tenants, and so, but I think that'll come up probably this summer again.
okay, because we were talking about doing a, you know, from Lake Geneva to Green Lake or something like that, and having a tour.
Doing a tour of,
Yeah.
of what?
Just having the bikes come and stay overnight here,
Oh,
you know, and then they go down to the next section, then come back, so.
Nice.
That might give us a couple points, I don't know.
Interesting. Moving on to 8C.
I have a couple things, sorry. Any traction on those reflectors on Netherwood and Cusack, the big ones in the lane, so cars wouldn't hit the
talked about
oncoming
that a couple months
bicyclists?
ago.
you talked about that.
Yeah.
Did you look at pricing?
I am working so hard on that right now.
Yes.
Thank you, Jamie.
And then the other thing, with what happened on the Rotary Trail not too long ago, just one person said they're not ever gonna go back on it. So is there a chance of getting some sort of safety feature, like a help button, like the college campuses or whatever, that would just,
So, yeah, those are hard. For one thing, extremely isolated event. And I want to be very careful to not minimalize what happened, but not overreact because if there had even been a call box there, it probably, I mean, call boxes have kind of gone by the wayside because everyone has cell phones. I mean, I hate to say that, but, yeah, and that's out in the town. So one of the things that we've been pushing for years is to expand that parking area over there. And we've been supporting John Brown, lives over there, who wants the larger, he sees it crowded all the time, and they want a larger parking area. So we're kind of working with that, but we want to see the town get behind that, because that's way out in the town. That's 3 miles from our boundary, so, but, yeah, I hate it when those kind of things happen, because it reminds us that we're in a world of bad people.
I don't know if anything had ever gotten planned, but I saw on social media just after that someone had mentioned, well, maybe we should have some more, because obviously it's like kind of the idea of eyes on the street. There's more activity happening out there. It will deter further incidents from happening because there's just, it's more visible, more, and somebody had mentioned kind of like a take back the trail day, like let's find a day and everybody just come out at noon and let's, you know, ride or something. So I don't think anything ever really got planned, but yeah, that was hard news to hear because it's, you know, right in our backyard.
Yeah.
Any others, Jamie?
nope.
Appreciate you bringing those forward.
Sorry about that, Jamie, about forgetting those. you're talking about along Netherwood. Between, yeah,
Cusack,
as a,
right? Is it Cusack?
well,
The
Well,
trail in
where you
Cusick is off
turn.
that crossing.
yeah, you're
Or you wanna
along,
go around the person turning left? You know what I mean?
If people are traveling east on Netherwood
Thank
and they
you.
wanna take a left to go up.
oh, yeah,
there,
yeah.
People,
So just there,
people are using the
got it,
bike
okay.
lane
Pass
as a
on the right.
bypass lane, even
Got
though
it.
that's not what it's
So we
intended to.
we're
So
not
we have those
talking
big
about all
blockers.
along Netherwood
Well,
there.
ideally, but no.
But
think
I see what you're
like
saying,
right there, I
that
think it's the
even
most
5 or
prevalent.
10 along there would be
Yeah.
enough to,
Essentially, look at what they did out in front of RCI to try and keep people from turning one way in and out of that driveway.
that was
People
us.
find a way around it.
that was
but,
us, yeah. We replace those all the time.
Yeah, I know, yeah. But I think something like that, just to keep
Yeah.
people out of the bike lane and using it as a bypass.
That's not a
lane.
bad idea, because we're actually seeing people bypass. I have to talk to someone about the right-hand turn lanes at Alpine
Yes.
and CC there at Jefferson
I
and
mean,
Alpine.
when you
'cause
see people crossing, I mean, you almost have to put your hazards on or park
I do.
halfway in them. And
I've,
it's
I've pulled
the
off,
same at,
I've
you
pulled
know,
off, blocked them with my truck and with my lights on and still gotten the high sign. And then, but there's someone, I'd rather them hit me than
Yeah.
them hit
Right, I
a
mean,
pedestrian.
when I come on Jefferson to turn to Ash to go to my house, I take a very wide turn if there's anyone
Yeah,
there to keep people from
Yep.
cutting around through the parking spaces, because people are just impatient. And I'd hate to see someone get hit.
Yeah,
I would, yeah.
absolutely. Item 8C, playground equipment for Gary Dish Park. Was there anything else that we're going to act on that, or we just want to have that on for future discussion?
This kind of leads into 8D, so I could kind of just
Right.
jump into that and cover that for
Okay.
Martin. But so Gary Dish Park currently has no, got some trees, but no equipment, and
trees yet.
there's really, the neighborhood's been asking for, there's really not a park there. Foxborough Golf Course was somehow, back in the day, that was sort of approved as the parkland dedication for that neighborhood. Obviously, it's not a public park, so excited to have this park on that end of the village, and there is kind of a pad there for some small playground, not a huge playground set, but playground equipment. So we are starting to work on the budget process for next year. There's kind of two parts to that. One is the operational budget, so, all the ongoing expenses, and then the capital improvement plan, which is our purchases, anything over 5,000. So, Jeff and I have talked about having, at least kind of the planning for that playground, and any, steps that might need to go in for accessibility, ramps, anything like that. That planning maybe through next year, and then installation maybe later in the year or in 2025, just to kind of break it up a little bit. But just to summarize, Martin wasn't able to be here with us tonight, but this is an opportunity to, over the next couple months, put some park projects in the plan, and some are already there that can kind of be shifted around, but we do have a 10-year outlook for the capital improvement plan, so if things kind of make sense to
What do you
shift
think,
around, that can
some
certainly
a
happen.
playground set in that environment, smaller than certainly Netherwood, what kind of dollars are we talking about for that? Let's take out any stairs, because obviously it's a big pitch over there.
I was gonna say, it's
Surfacing.
something we're gonna have to talk about whether that would be accessible or not.
Yeah.
And because a portion of that, we actually, when we were out there looking at the trees, we kept trees out of an area because it turns into a nice sledding hill down to, not huge, but kind of like what we have out at the, we call it Super Bowl out there off of Perry Parkway.
Yeah.
Park would be playground equipment, probably in the neighborhood of $100,000. Probably another 40 or 50 for hard surfacing around it, and then the solid surfacing would be another $50,000. So almost $200,000. But I think it's something we could look at, and also maybe look at some of our park funds. I mean, since we've increased the park impact fee, we're getting a nice steady supply or stream of park fund that's coming in, and that is we can pay down debt, which we should be doing, but I think we can also be using that, funneling off maybe a percentage of that to new construction. So,
I mean, I think when the residents look at what Highlands and Etherwood got, and all the money that's being spent downtown, and all
Yeah.
the money that's gonna be spent downtown, I think if they don't get something, there's gonna be some hard feelings.
yeah.
Well, the builder paid for some of that, right?
No,
For Highlands, nope, that was all village funds that were borrowed. I mean, there was the park impact fees. Those are paid with every building permit.
yeah.
But yeah, they only dedicated the land. That was part of their requirement for the parkland dedication.
And Viridian, you gonna talk about Viridian?
We've already kind of gone over that. I mean,
Yeah, I
Viridian
mean,
did,
Viridian wants to build theirs up front.
yeah, so we'll kind of credit rather than get dollars in for each building permit. They're kind of paying for the park improvements up front, and then it'll just be credited against sort of what they would have owed had they paid it bit by bit. So the couple of park plans that are park projects that are in the CIP right now, JC Park West Phase 2. I think we do feel like it's worth just given the amount of time that's passed by to see if we do still need to have that fourth ball diamond, the large one, if that would be used enough to kind of still warrant that and keep it in the original plan, or if there's better use of that area.
Yeah, I actually had talked to Martin, I'm surprised it's still in here as the 2024. That's an old CIP, a starting CIP. I had talked about actually moving Phase 2 out so that we can get Phase 1 done, completed, and have people start using it. And then we'll see the uses of it and see how that can be, I mean, we've had so many new things going on and so many new things for construction going in that I still would like to do Phase 2, which includes the playground and everything else. But I think we just have to take a little bit of a breather.
Fair enough.
Is that area for phase 2, is that seeded at all, or is it just dirt right now?
It'll be seeded, yeah.
So, I mean, so at that point, that can be the placeholder, it can be open space, so people can
That's
enjoy
where,
it for what they need.
yeah, that's where I think we can possibly make another full-size with what's there.
Sure.
Full-size soccer field that would be
Temporarily.
usable, that can be temporary, and, yeah.
Well, just before COVID happened, SSM Health had all these grants that they were giving out, and we were working on one for JC Park. But now,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know if we opened them again, so
So-
if someone
yeah.
wants to check with SSM Health and see if
Yeah,
there's any
sometimes
grants.
the grants are good, but, and I mean, it's good free money, but sometimes a grant is like 5% of the construction cost. And, you know, if it can cover 50%, great, but if it's, sometimes a lot of those, they try to spread their money over a lot of different areas.
But yeah, we can check and see if those
Yeah.
have reopened. Some of the other projects on here, the Oak Street tennis / pickleball court reconstruction. We haven't been successful in getting one of the DNR grants yet to reconstruct. I'm not sure if you were planning on reapplying for that this year, or if we just didn't
We're
score.
gonna wait till we didn't score, one of the reasons we didn't score well is it wasn't part of our park and rec plan, cause it wasn't even on our radar at the time. And so now that we are updating our park and rec plan, we'll update that, it'll be a dedicated project in there to rebuild and resurface that and add lighting, so now it's a much bigger project. And, yeah, that'll, so
Yeah.
probably next year.
Yeah, so could decide if we want to wait for another grant or move that up in the CIP, but obviously the pickleball courts, the new JC Park courts, that'll be available. They're still used by tennis, I think, in the school sports quite a bit. The West Side Park Planning Major Improvement Project, we've kind of, again, kept this on pause with the park plan and the comp plan, all that kind of getting updated this year. So I think we had set 2024 as a planning year, probably working with likely a landscape architecture firm to do, again, more of the nuts and bolts planning on, do we want to have shelters, what are the amenities we want to have, trails, what kind of connections between existing trails should happen, what are the types of uses that we see out there. So that can kind of move around the plan depending on what you guys think, but that was sort of, my understanding was 2024 was the kind of planning, study, and then whatever construction, would need to be done would be kind of the following years. And then, yeah, 5-year plans is our current update, so 2028, 2033 will be the next, next time. And then, yeah, the general $20,000 set aside annually for park capital costs, equipment failure, facility repairs. So maybe Jeff was correct in that too, that that's our standard 20,000
Yeah, I'm
dedication.
gonna look into that.
And then any other projects. So I think Martin included just our schedule throughout this year, but these are the park projects and where they sit currently. So, okay.
Excuse me.
That make sense? Okay, I understand that. I understand. Thanks for being here.
So we will see this again in future meetings, but just wanted to kind of get you caught up on the projects. If you have any thoughts or questions about what these projects are too, we can expand on that now or at a future meeting.
Okay. Anybody in the park board have questions or comments about it? CIP's coming and getting some money that we can work with. All right, don't think there's anything else in particular. Upcoming meetings, June 13th. I know we started the summer time frame, so keep an eye on that, see how that fills in so we can have everybody here. And we are looking forward to being at the new location, so keep an eye on the agenda for that to make sure of that. And then July 12th, that's going to move away from the Tuesday due to the Sounds of Summer. And then Wednesday would be the 9th, so we're kind of looking out a couple of months. Does anybody else in the park board have any comments?
I
Wants to share?
do.
You do.
Just one quick, maybe, and this might not be the right place to bring it up, but Jeff did mention the environmental push, and this kind of fits everywhere, but I was recently inspired, trip to Colorado, and they are plastic bagless. And I think it would be cool, or planting a seed for Oregon to maybe think about getting rid of the plastic bag.
I had a chance of
stored.
looking on a LinkedIn and caught one of those, and they talked about recyclable products, and they talked about the hazard and the challenge with bags associated with that. So from a technical perspective, it makes a whole lot more sense as to why they don't fit in real well with a recycling process. So some of that education would be really helpful. I think anything in terms of environmental, yeah, a lot comes around just education and just getting people aware of what kind of impact it has. And so that's a large portion of that. And even as participate sustainability, you look at why do we do these things. So that would be great to bring that in education.
Yeah, and I asked how it was received, and they said it was all right, and everybody's kind of used to bringing their own bags, and got charged $0.25 for a paper one that broke on the way out, and I was like, reimbursed, I am returning this bag. But anyway, aside from that, it was really kind of nice.
Yeah.
to
That
have
would be a
that.
good thing to bring up with the chamber. Obviously, we're
Chamber.
not giving out a lot of plastic bags, but working with, grocery store and some of the other
Okay.
shops and pharmacies and stuff in town. That's definitely something I think we could bring up at a chamber meeting. Just to remind everybody too, we do have an ad hoc sustainability committee in the village, and they are wrapping up their kind of year of reports and investigations and lots of meetings with staff and other community groups. So I think one of the July board meetings will be presenting their plan and recommendations, and there was a whole bunch of different categories. I don't even remember them all, but a lot of them were kind of village operations focused, village buildings, and I think some were kind of more related to just residents and consumers and education. So stay tuned for that report. And Andy, I don't know, you're not on that committee, are you? I know Teresa is, but
I participate in one of the subcommittees.
okay, yeah. So I'm
Yeah,
not
it
sure.
says like at the Walmart doesn't have plastics, so I didn't know if it was like an ordinance that well, it's still in Colorado. I don't know if it's all of Colorado, but
Right,
the
or
grocery
if it's
stores,
a
Walmart.
municipality thing.
What about the dog bags we have at the park?
They can be, you can get biodegradable
plastic?
bags.
I don't know, I don't pick up the dog poop at the park. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not
We'll
one
be
of
the only
those.
one, yeah.
I think those are biodegradable, because you can purchase those, so I thought they were a little different.
Yeah.
I think also with environmentalism, when you're talking about association of plastic bags, I think there's an easy tie with biking and encouraging biking among adults in Oregon. That's obviously like, oh, and it's good for this reason, then, because obviously that's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah. One more thing, Mark, to note, we do have our village board rep seat vacant right now. Anybody that's not paying attention to all the politics going on at the board and the election, we are down 2 board members right now due to Jenna Jacobson resigning, and then Phil moving into the president role, and he's got 1 year left of his seat, as well as Jenna's seat has 1 year left too. So their application's out. I think they're actually due on Friday, so if you know anybody interested, applying for a 1-year village board term, there'll be some written interview questions that they'll have a chance to respond to ahead of time. And then our next meeting, the May 22nd meeting, they'll have like a statement and then the decision, and they'll likely be sat right there at the meeting after sort of the review of applications. So I think they're waiting on making sure they have a full board and then determining who would be the best person to, the most interested member
Do you know
for
how many
park
people,
board seat.
you know how many people are signed up already?
I think we've received 9 applications so far.
Lots of interest.
Yep.
That's wonderful.
I'd like to recognize Leanna, since I haven't had a chance to meet you, so thank you for being here. Great to
I
fill
was
that
wondering, I
seat.
was like, did someone
You've
just
never
dye
said
their
anything.
hair? And haven't met them, no, okay.
So
Nice
thank
You
you
guys
for
have been
attending.
like
I also
ships passing the night.
Do want to recognize OCA Media. They're filling in for a different approach, but that allowed me to listen to the last meeting, so I did do that. So thank you again for capturing a lot of the village activities. So.
They're wonderful.
Yes. So item F, any other future items or any assignments? I don't have any assignments, at least in my role. Very good. We'll call for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor, state by saying aye.
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 So moved. Thank you all.
Thank you much.